The little girl ran straight into traffic before Adrian even heard the horn. He lunged, caught her around the waist, and a delivery truck screamed past so close the wind slapped his face. The child buried herself against his neck, trembling, and whispered, "Daddy, you came." If stories like this hit you somewhere deep, subscribe, like the video, and tell me where you're watching from before we begin. Because this one doesn't just break your heart, it reaches in and squeezes. Adrian froze in the middle of the crosswalk, one hand locked around a child who felt far too familiar. She couldn't have been older than 5. Tiny fingers, pink coat, one shoe half untied. Rainwater dotted her dark curls, and her breath came in little panicked bursts against his collar. He pulled back just enough to see her face, and his chest went hollow. She had his eyes. Not just the same color, the same shape. The same strange softness at the corners people used to tell him made him look kinder than he actually was. And on her left eyebrow, barely hidden by a curl, was a crescent-shaped scar in the exact spot where he had one too, the result of falling off a bicycle when he was 6. Behind him, somebody screamed, "Lena!" He turned. The umbrella had fallen from her hand. Her groceries spilled across the wet sidewalk. Apples rolled into the gutter. Mira. 5 years vanished and hit him all at once. She looked thinner than he remembered, sharper around the cheekbones, beautiful in a way that hurt to look at because life had clearly touched her with rough hands. Her eyes found the little girl in his arms first, wide with terror, then lifted to his face. And whatever blood was left in hers disappeared. "Lena," she said again, but softer now, like she was trying not to frighten the child. "Come here, baby." The little girl clung tighter to Adrian. "No," she whispered, peeking at Mira from his shoulder. "That's him. That's my daddy." Nobody moved. Rain tapped the hood of the stopped truck. Somewhere, a man cursed under his breath and drove off. The whole street seemed to shift around them, while Adrian kept hearing that one word, over and over, pounding against his ribs. Daddy. Mira crossed the street slowly, as if she were walking toward a loaded weapon. "Lena," she said, voice shaking. "You can't run into the road like that." "But it was him," the child insisted, pointing at Adrian's face like this explained everything. "The picture man. I told you if I saw him, I'd know." Adrian finally found his voice. It didn't sound like his own. "What did she just call me?" Mira shut her eyes for 1 second. Just one, but in that second he saw it all. Fear, exhaustion, and a grief so old it had settled into her bones. "Please," she said quietly. "Not here." That was the problem. 5 years earlier, she had said those exact words. Not here. And he hadn't listened then either. Back then, the room had been full of music and crystal glasses and rich people pretending they didn't enjoy scandal. It was their 3rd anniversary party. His mother had insisted on hosting it because Evelyn Hale considered every family moment an opportunity to display power. Adrian remembered the exact weight of the envelope Lucas had slid into his hand on the balcony. "I didn't want to be the one to show you this," his best friend had said, wearing that careful expression people use when they're about to destroy somebody. "But you deserve to know before you go in there smiling like a fool." Inside the envelope were 2 things. A medical report stating Adrian had less than a 1% chance of ever fathering a child. And photos of Mira, hand in hand with another man outside a hotel 3 weeks before. At first, Adrian had laughed. Actually laughed, because his brain refused to accept it. Then Mira tapped a spoon against her champagne glass inside the ballroom and smiled at him with tears in her eyes. "I have a surprise," she said. His mother's lips curled even before the words came out. "I'm pregnant." Everything after that had turned savage. The room erupted. Applause, gasps, congratulations. Mira looked radiant and terrified and hopeful all at once. Adrian remembered the little white box in her hand. Baby shoes. He remembered how she looked at him, waiting for joy. Instead, he gave her humiliation. "Congratulations," he said loudly, pulling the medical report from his pocket. "Now maybe you should tell everyone who the father is." Silence swallowed the room whole. Mira's smile cracked. "What?" He showed her the paper, showed everyone. Then the photos. She turned white. "Adrian, listen to me." "No," he snapped. "I've listened enough." His mother moved first, stepping to his side like a queen arriving to claim a battlefield. Guests started whispering. Someone put a hand over their mouth. Lucas looked away like even he couldn't bear it. "That man is my brother," Mira said, voice breaking. "I found him after years. I was going to tell you." "Your brother?" Adrian laughed again, harsher this time. "At a hotel?" "He was staying there. He flew in that morning. Adrian, please." "Do not make me the idiot twice." Her hand moved to her stomach. That should have stopped him. It should have snapped him out of whatever rage had taken possession of him. But pain makes people cruel, and pride makes them deaf. So when she whispered, "This baby is yours," he answered with the sentence that burned her life to the ground. "Then this baby is a lie, too." By the next week, the divorce papers were filed. By the month after, he had signed them. And when she cried in the courthouse hallway, one hand on the wall to steady herself, he had walked past her without looking back. He told himself that was strength. It wasn't. It was cowardice dressed like certainty. Now here she was, 5 years older, standing in the rain with a child who had just called him Daddy. Adrian set the girl down slowly. "Her name is Lena?" "Helena," Mira said. "We call her Lena." Lena took his hand without permission, like children do when they trust somebody faster than adults ever can. "I knew it was you." He stared at her. "How?" She frowned, almost offended by the question. "Because my mommy keeps your picture in a box under sweaters, and sometimes when she thinks I'm asleep, she cries at it." Mira inhaled sharply. "Lena." "What?" the girl asked. "You do." Adrian looked at Mira, but she couldn't meet his eyes. He should have asked 1,000 things right there. "Is she mine? Why didn't you tell me? Why now? Why did you let me live like a ghost while my daughter grew up learning my face from a hidden photograph?" Instead, he said the one thing that mattered in that second. "She almost died." Mira's mouth trembled. "I know." He glanced down. "Why did she run?" Lena rocked on her heels, then said it with the brutal honesty only children have. "Because Mommy said daddies who leave don't come back. So I wanted to see if you were real before you disappeared again." That sentence hit harder than any slap ever could. Mira collected the groceries she could save, shoulders rigid. "Thank you for pulling her back." "Is she mine?" There it was. Raw. Ugly. Late. Mira's fingers tightened around the paper bag until it bent. "I'm not doing this in the street." "Then where?" She hesitated, and he saw the fight inside her. Run or answer, protect or expose, survive or reopen every wound he had given her. Finally, she said, "There's a cafe on the corner."
The cafe was too small for a moment that big. Lena sat in the booth coloring on a paper placemat while the adults across from each other tried not to drown in what they had done to each other. Rain slid down the window beside them. Somebody at the counter laughed too loudly. Life had the nerve to keep going. Adrian looked at the girl, then back at Mira. "Tell me the truth." Mira gave a tired, humorless smile. "That's rich." His jaw clenched. "I deserve that." "No," she said. "You deserved the truth 5 years ago. You just didn't want it if it didn't match your anger." He couldn't argue. She rubbed her thumb against the coffee cup. "Yes, Lena is yours." The noise in the cafe fell away. Adrian leaned back like the words had shoved him. All these years. Christmas mornings, fevers, first steps, scraped knees, bedtime stories, nightmares, birthdays. Gone. Not because he had died, because he had chosen not to listen. He looked at Lena again and saw suddenly not just resemblance, but absence. The space where he should have been. "Why didn't you tell me after she was born?" Mira laughed once, but it broke in the middle. "I did." He stared at her. "I came to your office when I was 7 months pregnant. Your security told me I wasn't allowed in." She looked at him then, eyes bright and furious. "Your mother had left my name and picture at the desk." A cold feeling moved down his spine. "I wrote you 6 letters. The last one had Lena's sonogram photo in it. I left voicemails. I mailed the hospital bracelet after she was born. Nothing." Adrian's face went numb. "I never got any of them." "I know that now," she said. "Back then I thought you got every single one and decided silence was cleaner." He heard his mother's voice in his head, silk wrapped around a blade. "Some women don't let go gracefully." "What changed?" he asked. "Why didn't you come after me later?" Mira looked down at Lena, who was drawing 3 stick figures under a giant yellow sun. "Because I had to stop bleeding at some point. Because every time I thought about standing in front of you again, I remembered you calling my child a lie in a room full of people. Because when a woman has to choose between dignity and hope, dignity usually keeps the lights on." Adrian couldn't speak. Then Lena looked up, smiling proudly at her drawing. "I made us." He swallowed. "Us?" She nodded. "Me, Mommy, and you. I didn't know if you'd have hair." Mira's lips trembled despite herself. Adrian stared at the crooked paper figure with a tie. Something inside him, the part he had kept locked away behind work, money, and excuses, split open. "Does she know?" he asked softly. "I told her you were her father," Mira said. "I never told her you were dead. I couldn't do that, no matter how angry I was." "Why?" Her answer came too quickly, like it had been waiting years to escape. "Because I knew what it felt like to grow up with half my story missing." Before he could ask what that meant, Lena's smile faded. She pressed a fist to her chest. Mira was up instantly. "Lena?" The girl tried to breathe and couldn't quite catch it. Adrian stood so fast the table rattled. "It's okay," Mira said, though she looked terrified. She knelt beside her daughter and pulled a small inhaler from the girl's backpack. "Baby, look at me. Slow." Lena took 2 shaky puffs. Her tiny shoulders gradually loosened. Adrian's hands were trembling. What is wrong with her? Mira kept one arm around Lena even after the color came back. She was born with a heart defect, she whispered, and severe asthma. The doctors say she'll need surgery soon. The world did not just crack this time. It accused him. All those years he had been buying watches he didn't need and signing contracts he barely remembered while his daughter fought for breath. How long have you known? Since she was 6 months old. And you never... He stopped. He had no right to finish that sentence. Mira did it for him. Never told the man who left us? No. I learned how to carry things. Lena touched Adrian's sleeve with small fingers. Are you mad? He dropped to her level so fast his knee hit the floor. No, sweetheart. No. I'm mad at myself. She considered that. Okay. Because I waited a really long time. That was the first moment he nearly cried. The second came later that night, when he drove to his mother's house with Lena's drawing on the passenger seat. Evelyn Hale lived in a mansion built from inherited money and emotional frost. She opened the door wearing pearls, because of course she did, and her expression hardened the second she saw his face. What happened? He held up the child's drawing. You tell me. Her eyes flicked over it, unreadable. I'm not in the mood for games. Did you intercept Mira's letters? 1 beat. 2. Then, disastrously, she said, That girl found you, didn't she? Adrian went still. His mother realized too late what she had admitted. All these years, he said, voice almost calm, which scared even him. You knew. Evelyn folded her arms. I knew she would ruin your life. She was my wife. She was a distraction, emotional, poor, pregnant at a very convenient time. She was carrying your granddaughter. His mother's eyes turned cold. A child she claimed was yours. Claimed? He stepped closer. You kept letters from me. I protected you. From what? Love? From weakness, Evelyn snapped. Your father built this family by making hard choices. You were ready to throw everything away over a waitress with sad eyes and a talent for making men rescue her. Adrian's face twisted like she had spit on him. Mira never asked to be rescued. No, Evelyn said sharply. She asked to be believed, which is worse. The cruelty of that sentence almost took the air from him. He had one more question, though part of him already dreaded the answer. The fertility report. Evelyn said nothing. He understood anyway. You changed it. Her silence confirmed everything. Dr. Keller owed your father favors, Adrian said, piecing together the filth of it. Lucas brought me the report, the photos. He was helping you. Evelyn's chin lifted. Lucas understood what marriage should do for a man in your position. What marriage should do? Adrian laughed, horrified. You destroyed mine. I saved your future. No, he said, voice breaking now, finally breaking. You stole 5 years from my daughter. For the first time, Evelyn softened, but only in the way ice softens when it starts to crack, never enough to become water. You would have forgiven her, she said quietly. Yes. And I couldn't watch you choose her over us. There it was. Not pride, not family reputation. Possession. Adrian backed away from the woman who raised him and saw, maybe for the first time, what she actually was. Not strong, not elegant, not protective, just afraid of losing control. You already lost me, he said. Then he walked out. This time, he was the one who didn't look back. The next morning, he found Lucas at the office. His former best friend still wore expensive suits and cheap loyalty. He was reviewing blueprints in the conference room when Adrian shut the glass door behind them. You knew Lena was mine. Lucas exhaled. I had suspicions. You gave me fake proof. I gave you what your mother wanted delivered. Adrian stared at him with something worse than anger. Disbelief. For what? Lucas hesitated, then gave the ugliest answer possible. Because if you married the investor's daughter, the merger would go through. We all win. We? Lucas spread his hands. Come on, Adrian. You think I spent 10 years building this firm beside you out of friendship alone? There are betrayals that cut. And then there are betrayals that reveal your whole life was built beside strangers. By noon, Lucas was fired. By evening, Adrian had canceled the merger, publicly. And because the universe enjoys irony, the announcement happened at a charity gala in the same hotel where Mira's life had first been torn apart. The ballroom looked almost identical. Same chandeliers, same polished floor, same low thrum of rich people pretending not to feed on disaster. Only this time, Adrian walked to the microphone with no intention of protecting anyone. "Before tonight's announcement," he said, voice steady through the speakers, "there is something I need to say publicly because the harm done was public." The room quieted. His mother, seated near the front, went rigid. 5 years ago, he had stood in a room like this and humiliated the woman he loved. He had spent every day since pretending success could silence guilt. It never had. So he told them. Not every detail, just enough. "I accused my wife of betrayal without listening to the truth. I allowed lies to speak louder than love. And because of that, I lost 5 years with my daughter." A wave of whispers moved across the room. His mother stood. "Adrian." He looked directly at her. "Sit down." Nobody had ever spoken to Evelyn Hale that way. The shock on the faces around her almost looked like entertainment. Then he did the one thing she could never control. He chose shame over image. "I was wrong," he said into the microphone, the words meant for one person who was not even there. "And some people I trusted made sure I stayed wrong. The merger is canceled. Lucas Mercer no longer works for this company. And everything my family built by swallowing truth can collapse for all I care." The silence afterward felt alive. It didn't fix anything, but for the first time, it resembled justice. Mira didn't answer his calls for 3 days. On the 4th, she opened her apartment door with exhaustion in her face and suspicion in her posture. The place was tiny, clean, worn. A child's socks draped over a radiator, medicine bottles lined up by the kitchen sink. There was a crack in the ceiling someone had painted over badly. He hated that his daughter lived where every month must have felt like a negotiation. "I'm not here to buy forgiveness," he said. Mira crossed her arms. "Good. It's not for sale." "I know." Lena ran in from the bedroom and threw herself at his legs like they had known each other longer than one rainy afternoon. Human hearts are reckless that way. They leap before memory can warn them. He looked down, startled, then slowly put a hand on her back. "I brought the coloring book you wanted." Her gasp was pure sunlight. "The mermaid one?" "Yeah." She took it and ran back out, already shouting "thank you" from halfway down the hall. Mira watched him carefully. "You can't do this halfway." "I'm not here for halfway." "You said that at our wedding, too." He nodded, accepting the wound. "Then let me earn a different ending." She should have slammed the door. Instead, she let him come in. Not because she trusted him, because Lena was watching. The weeks that followed hurt in quiet ways. Adrian learned that children don't care about dramatic apologies. They care if you remember the stuffed rabbit's name, if you show up when you say you will, if you know they hate great medicine and love bedtime stories with silly voices. He learned Mira worked 2 jobs, day shifts at a bakery, nights doing bookkeeping for a mechanic shop from home. He learned Lena counted every stare because the doctor told her not to run too hard. He learned the surgery cost more than Mira could carry, and that she had been selling pieces of her life in secret. Her grandmother's bracelet, her sewing machine, even her wedding ring. That last discovery gutted him. He found the pawn slip tucked inside a cookbook and just stared at it until the words blurred. When Mira saw it in his hand, her face changed. "Give it back. You sold your ring." "I sold metal," she said. "The marriage was gone long before that." He wanted to argue. He wanted to say it hadn't been gone for him. Not really. Not even in the years he pretended it was. But he had earned none of those confessions. So he asked, "Why didn't you ask for help?" And Mira, tired beyond politeness, answered honestly. "Because being abandoned once is survivable. Begging the same person twice is not." That was the third time he nearly cried. The first time he actually did was 2 nights later. He had tucked Lena into bed after reading the same page of a storybook 3 times because she kept interrupting with important questions about whether dragons got lonely. The room had gone soft and quiet. She was half asleep, thumb brushing the ear of her rabbit. Then she opened her eyes again and asked, "Did you not want me?" There are grown men who can survive boardrooms, lawsuits, funerals, and car crashes without shaking. Nothing prepares you for a child asking if your absence was her fault. Adrian sat frozen beside the bed. Lena looked embarrassed for even asking. "It's okay if you didn't know me yet. I was thinking maybe I was too loud." He made a sound then. Not a word. Something ripped and helpless. He leaned forward, forehead against her blanket, and cried where she could see him. "No," he whispered. "No, baby, I was blind. That's different. It's worse, actually. But it was never you. Never." Tiny fingers touched his hair. "Okay," she said softly, "because children are kinder than adults deserve. You can stay till I sleep." When he stepped out of the room, Mira was in the hallway with tears on her face. Neither of them pretended not to know what had just happened. "He asked me once if I was enough for both parents," she whispered. "Do you know what that does to a person?" "Yes," Adrian said. "I'm beginning to." The surgery date came faster than anyone wanted. The night before, Lena spiked a fever. Machines, nurses, white lights. Mira sat in the hospital chair, not blinking enough, one hand wrapped around Lena's ankle beneath the blanket, as if even sleep might steal her. Adrian handled paperwork, doctors, insurance, consent forms, blood matching, the things money can finally do once it arrives late and ashamed. When the surgeon explained there might be complications, Mira nodded like she understood, then walked into the hallway and vomited into a trash can. Adrian held her hair back. It was such a small, human act that it shattered something formal between them. She was crying when she stood up, really crying now. "I can't lose her." "You won't." "Don't say that like a promise you can control." He took the hit. "You're right." She pressed both palms to her eyes. "I hate that you're here." "I know." "I hate that when things get unbearable, some part of me still feels less alone because you're here." That one hurt because it was honest, and because he felt the same. He stepped closer, careful, like approaching a frightened animal. "Mira." She dropped her hands. "I loved you stupidly," he said, proudly, blindly. "But I did love you. And if all you ever let me be from this point on is Lena's father, I'll spend the rest of my life being good at that. But if there is even a corner of your heart that still remembers us, I'm here. I'm finally here." Mira stared at him, breathing hard. Then the nurse called them back because Lena was waking and asking for both of them. Both. The surgery lasted 4 hours. 4 hours can hold entire lifetimes when somebody you love is on the other side of a door you cannot open. When the surgeon finally emerged, mask lowered, eyes tired, Adrian knew before he spoke. It went well. Mira folded in half with relief. Adrian caught her before she hit the floor. He didn't realize he was crying too until the surgeon handed him tissues and pretended not to notice. Lena slept through most of the first day after. On the second, she woke up hoarse and pale and immediately asked, "Did I do brave?" "You did incredibly brave," Mira said, kissing her forehead. Lena looked at Adrian next. "Did you stay?" He smiled through the ache in his face. "Every second." She nodded, satisfied. "Good. I had a dream you left again and I got really mad." Mira let out a laugh that broke into a sob. A month later, Adrian took them somewhere he had once destroyed them. The courthouse. Mira stopped at the bottom of the steps. "Why are we here?" He crouched to fix Lena's cardigan, even though it didn't need fixing. His hands were nervous. Because 5 years ago, I walked out of this place and left the two of you in a pain I didn't even have the courage to look at." Mira went still. He stood, facing her fully now. Not as the man who had money or influence or a spotless suit, just a man who had finally understood the cost of arrogance. "I can't erase that day," he said. "I can't return your pregnancy, your fear, your loneliness, or her first 5 years. But I can give you this one moment honestly." He took a breath. "I filed the papers to legally restore Lena's name to mine, if you want that. And I asked the court to seal the old records so nobody can use what happened to humiliate you ever again." Mira looked stunned. He continued, voice lower now. "And I brought this because I'm done saying important things too late." From his coat pocket, he pulled out a small velvet box. Not flashy, not new. Inside was her old wedding ring. Her mouth parted. "How—" "I found the pawn shop. The owner remembered you." He swallowed. "He said you cried when you handed it over." She turned away just for a second, the emotion too naked to take head on. "I'm not asking you to forget," Adrian said. "I'm asking whether there is any future in which you might let me spend the rest of my life proving I know how to stay." Lena, who had been very patient by child standards, tugged Mira's sleeve. "Mommy?" Mira looked down. "I think he's doing the face." "What face?" "The one where grown-ups are about to make the whole room cry." "That did it." Mira laughed through tears. Then she looked back at Adrian, at the ring, at the man who had once broken her in public and now stood willing to be refused in daylight because love without humility is just hunger. "I can't promise easy," she whispered. "I don't want easy. I still have scars." "So do I." "You'll have to earn trust on boring days too, not just dramatic ones." His eyes filled. "Especially boring days." She held out her hand. Not for the ring, for him. And when he took it, it felt nothing like the first time. Better, somehow, less perfect, more true. Lena squeezed between them and lifted both their hands over her head like she had personally arranged the moon and tides. "Okay," she announced to the courthouse steps, the pigeons and the strangers passing by. "Now nobody is allowed to walk away." Adrian looked at Mira. Mira looked at Adrian. And for the first time in 5 years, neither of them did. Some love stories begin with forever. The real ones survive the day. Forever is broken, and still find the courage to say, stay. Tell me in the comments, could you forgive someone who destroyed your heart if they came back willing to rebuild it piece by piece?